So this is Unit 5. This will be 14.7 and 18.9, Plants, Photosynthesis, and Cellular Respiration. You've heard the words photosynthesis and cellular respiration quite a bit now, but you haven't actually learned what they are, and you will do that in this section. I'm not sure on dates. It's a little early to decide that, but I do know just from my pacing guide I have to be done by November 27th. This one should be rather short though, so hopefully we'll finish it before then. So here we go. I'll divide these words up, this unit, into two different units, one on plants and one on the cellular respiration and photosynthesis part. So your plant words are vascular, non-vascular, xylem, phloem, meristematic, ground tissue, cambium, stomata, guard cell, seed, pollination, cone, dermal tissue, vascular tissue, transpiration, roots, stem, leaves, flower, and fruits. Cellular respiration and photosynthesis words will be cellular respiration, aerobic, electron transport chain, anaerobic, photosynthesis, chlorophyll, light-dependent reaction, light-independent reaction, and ATP. We will start with 14.7, and this is going to be on plants. There are four main groups of land plants, which all fall under two types of plants. The four main groups are your mosses, ferns, gymnosperms, and angiosperms. The two types that they fall under will be non-vascular and vascular. Non-vascular plants do not have a vascular system for transporting water and nutrients within their bodies. They lack true roots, stems, and leaves. They are small in size and simple. They get their water through osmosis and diffusion. Remember, we just talked about osmosis and diffusion. So on the side of your paper, I want you to write down what are some key things with osmosis and diffusion. You can go back to your Unit 4 notes and look at that if you have forgotten. The group that falls under this is called the mosses. Vascular plants consist of your ferns, which are seedless, gymnosperms, and angiosperms. They are larger and more complex, and they contain true roots, leaves, and stems. Gymnosperms are seed plants whose seeds do not develop within a sealed container. Gymno means naked, and sperma means seed. They have a cone, like a pine cone, and the seeds are the protection for the plant embryos. A seed consists of a plant embryo packaged along with a food supply within a protective coat. Gymnosperms reproduce by wind pollination. The main example of this type of plant would be a pine tree. Angiosperms are types of plants that have a flower as the complex reproductive structure. The seeds develop within a specialized structure. Angion means case, and sperma means seed. Some key features of angiosperms is that they have flowers that are pollinated by the wind, insects, or self-pollination, and the fruit promotes seed dispersal and for food for animals. There are two types of angiosperms. You have your monocots and your dicots. A monocot is a flowering plant that produces seeds with one seed leaf. The flowers are in multiples of 3. They have long parallel leaf veins, and some examples of these are your grasses, wheat, tulip, corn, and lilies. Dicots are flowering plants that produce seeds with 2 seed leaves. They produce flowers with parts in multiples of 2, 4, or 5. They have branching leaf veins, and some examples are roses, sunflowers, and oaks. Here's a picture just basically showing you the differences between a monocot and a dicot. On your packet, you're going to find 3 different charts that you need to just fill in to sum everything up, just to make it simpler to study. On the next slide, you're going to see 10 different pictures of different types of flowers or leaves or whatever. You need to tell whether if it's a monocot or a dicot, and then tell why you believe it is that. You're probably going to have to pause the video if you're doing it by the video. Plant organ systems. There are two different types of systems. You have your shoot system and your root system. The shoot system is composed of the above-ground plant organs. Examples of these would be the vertical stem, leaves, and the flowers. The function of this system includes reproduction, photosynthesis, the storage and transport of nutrients and water, and the production of hormones. The root system is composed of the underground plant organs. The organ that falls under this system are the roots. The function of this system includes the absorption of nutrients and water, the storage and transport of nutrients and water, anchorage to the ground, and the production of hormones. There are three different plant tissue types. They're all found in either the shoot or root system. The first one is ground tissue. The main function of the ground tissues include photosynthesis, storage, and support. Then we're going to have vascular and then dermal. Vascular tissue. This tissue transports water, minerals, nutrients, and organic molecules between roots and shoots. It contributes to the structural support of the plant. There are two types of vascular tissue, the xylem and the phloem. The xylem transports water and dissolved minerals upward from roots into shoots. The phloem transports food made in mature leaves to the roots and the parts of the shoot system that don't carry out photosynthesis, such as developing leaves, flowers, and fruits. Vascular tissues are located in the centers of roots, but in the stems it is arranged on many separate strands called vascular bundles. In monocots, they are scattered, but in dicots, they are arranged into a ring. Here's a picture showing you how the vascular bundles are scattered in the monocot and how they're arranged in the ring in the dicot. Dermal tissue is the outer covering or skin of the plant. What is another word for skin? You might have heard it called the epidermis. It covers and protects all young parts of the plant. The epidermis can be specialized depending on what part of the plant you are talking about. Many plants have epidermal hairs to trap or poison insects, protecting the plant from insect herbivores. The stomata is located in the epidermis of leaves and some other tissues or pores. Gas exchange between environment and interior of the plant occurs through the stoma. There are four main structures in the plant. These are all really easy. You have your roots, leaves, stems, and flowers. So the roots anchor the plant in the soil, absorbing minerals and water and providing structural support. A root cap protects the mass of cells at the tip. Root hairs increase the surface area and absorb more. A dicot has a taproot, which is one large vertical root with many smaller branches. Examples of this include carrots, onions, or radishes. Monocots have fibrosis root system, which is a mat of many thin roots spread out below the soil surface to provide an increase of exposure to soil and nutrients. Here's a picture showing you the different parts of a root. Leaves are the primary manufacturing site of a plant. They capture sunlight and convert it from light energy to chemical energy during photosynthesis. Most leaves are flattened and thin, allowing them to intercept and capture sunlight effectively. Some plants also have modified leaves. Water leaves the plant through a process known as transpiration. Openings on the leaf surface, called the stomata, let water and oxygen out. They also let carbon dioxide in. Guard cells are what opens and closes the stomata. Monocots have several major veins that run parallel along the length of the leaf's blade, while dicots have a network of branching veins. The stems provide support and structures for the plant and allow water and nutrients to travel throughout the plant. The meristem is the tip where plant growth occurs. The flower is known as the sex organs of the plant. They allow the plant to reproduce. They contain the carpel and the pollen. Brightly colored flowers attract insects that carry pollen from one flower to another. Once a flower is pollinated, the flowers can produce seeds and fruit. The sepal is the part of the flower that covers and protects the bud before it blossoms. The petals are a strikingly colorful organ that attracts insect pollination. The stamen is the male reproduction organ that is located in the center of the flower and pistils. They have a long stalk called a filament, topped by a sac called the anther. This is where meiosis occurs and generates spores that develop into pollen grains. Pollen is the male gamete, the sex cell, containing two cells surrounded by a protective wall. The pistil is the female reproductive structure. The pistil has three parts. The stigma on top is often sticky and is where the pollen attaches. The style is a long tube that attaches the stigma to the ovary. Sperm from the pollen will travel down the tube to the ovules. The ovules, or eggs, are stored in the ovary until they are fertilized. Plants can only fertilize eggs of the same species. Special chemicals prevent sperm from fertilizing the eggs of flowers that are not the same kind. After fertilization, the ovule develops into a seed. Monocots have sepals, petals, and reproductive parts in multiples of 3. Dicots have organs dispersed in multiples of 4 and 5. Because gymnosperms do not have a flower, they do not reproduce the same way. Gymnosperms produce cones. The male and female cone usually are on the same plant. Photosynthesis is energy from the sun is used to make food during a process known as photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is important because it is the energy that is stored in the molecules that make up the food we eat, which are plants. Pigments such as chlorophyll capture the light energy. These pigments are found in the chloroplast of the plant. Chlorophyll is what makes the plant appear green. This is because the wavelengths of green light are reflected back to your eye. The plant does not absorb these. Green light is least useful for photosynthesis. The other colors are absorbed and used. When green chlorophyll pigment decays in the autumn, the other pigments, red, yellow, purple, can be seen. This is what causes the colors in autumn leaves. Remember that reactants are what enters the reaction and products are what we get out of the reaction. So what are the products and reactants of photosynthesis? The reactants are carbon dioxide and water. The plant takes in carbon dioxide from the air and water through their roots. They combine these with the sun's energy to produce sugars, which are glucose, and oxygen, which are the products of photosynthesis. The oxygen is released into the air and the glucose is stored as a starch and becomes the basis of all our food. Energy is released from food during a process known as cellular respiration. Some form of cellular respiration occurs in all living things. In eukaryotes, most cellular respiration occurs in the mitochondria. There are two types of cellular respiration: anaerobic, which requires no oxygen, and aerobic, which requires oxygen. During cellular respiration, food is converted into ATP. ATP, or adenosine triphosphate, is a chemical energy that is stored in the chemical bonds of the ATP molecule. ATP contains a 5-carbon sugar, ribose, a nitrogenous base, adenine, and 3 phosphate groups. When a phosphate is removed, the bond is broken and its energy is released. It's now called ADP. What looks familiar about this and something you have seen before? The carbon dioxide and water released during cellular respiration are used during photosynthesis. The oxygen and glucose released during photosynthesis are used during cellular respiration. They are opposites.